Alrighty, recently played Let's Do This. Let me give you my thoughts, feelings, and opinions on Ants from Up There by Black Country New Road. Let's get into it. So we got the follow-up from last year's breakout album for the first time a lot sooner than I thought I would. And, you know, regardless how you feel about it, that was quite an impressive and ambitious album, and the fact that we're getting a brand new full-length exactly 1 year later is also quite impressive. But yeah, this is undeniably a very hard-working band with a bright and exciting future ahead of them. Or so we thought. And if I'm confusing you, I am of course referring to the sudden departure of band member Isaac Wood from the band just days before the release of this album. And you know, he didn't give much explanation besides the fact that he feels sad and afraid and he just can't bring himself to play music anymore. And that anger, that frustration, that sadness is so beautifully expressed in their new album, Ants from Up There by Black Country New Road. I would even argue that even if he didn't leave the band or express any of these feelings to the public, all of that still would have come across to us through the music alone, because this album just does such a great job of conveying those feelings. And before I continue with the review, I just want to say that even though it's so beautiful about how he expresses his sadness and anxiety in this album, with this review, I really don't want to perpetrate the tortured or sad artist stereotype or somehow imply that it is beneficial to artists to have mental health struggles. You know, he felt unwell to the point where he had to literally stop playing and leave the band. There is nothing glamorous or creative about that. And if you're struggling, you should get help. And I really do respect Isaac Wood's decision to do just that, because you know, it wasn't a small thing that he was sacrificing or giving up. I will always find it moving when artists genuinely share their life experiences in their work, but after the album comes out, they got to promote it, and then they got to go on tour, and then after that, we expect them to be working on the next one. And, you know, we love to applaud artists that make beautiful works about their struggles and their hardships, but even though we find it inspiring, at the end of the day, if they're still struggling, making another album, going on another tour isn't gonna help. So maybe putting everything on hold to just take care of your health isn't such a bad idea. And those are my thoughts on that. Back to the album. So 1 year later, what does Black Country New Road sound like? This one is definitely a departure from the proggy post-punk sound that defined their last album, but they still carry over pretty much everything I like about that, and then I think they do a really good job of building on all of their strengths as a band. From front to back, there's just this really beautiful, soulful indie rock sound to this album. Much more simple songwriting. I think that their heavy use of repetition from the last album carries over very well into this kind of very different sounding album. Also similar to the last album, the arrangements are just fantastic on this one. It just shows that they are a great sounding band with great chemistry with one another, and that can be applied to a variety of different styles. Moments like the way they gradually bring in instruments throughout the duration of Bread's song, or that horn, string, and piano arrangement in Haldern that is absolutely stunning and just leaves you in total awe, or the way that the chaotic drums at the end of Snow Globe so perfectly match the sound of the frustration in Isaac Wood's vocals. Again, for the first time, I think the band showcased a really great sense of dynamics, and again, I really like how they built upon that, in that this is a much more dynamic record than their last one. Especially the low, quiet points are so much lower. They're so quiet, and I love when the vocals sound so delicate and fragile. It's really nice. And that's probably one of the biggest reasons why I like this album more than For the First Time. On that album, the style of the vocals just felt to me like they were a little generic and almost as if they were trying to fit that post-punk mold. But on this album, they're just so much more soulful and way more genuine. So captivating, so full of emotion, so easy to relate to, and you know, really wonderful, very memorable lyrics on this album as well. And their lyrics kind of have this absurd comedic edge to them, with a lot of oddly specific references. I think on your first playthrough, you'll find yourself doing the occasional double take. What was that about Wi-Fi? Who's eating toast in your bed? Billie Eilish style? Chicken broccoli? But I did really enjoy these cryptic, absurd lyrics that could mean almost anything. You know, one example is this line from Bread Song where he sings, "Slip into something besides the holes you try to hide." Like, that's so cool. That could mean something completely different to almost anybody that hears it. And if you're wondering, why not just write lyrics that make sense? Why write these cryptic, absurd lyrics that could very well be totally meaningless? Well, maybe you can ask yourself if you've ever felt anxious or depressed for no real clear reason, and you know, you can wonder, did that make a whole lot of sense? The track Good Will Hunting has some of my favorite lyrics on the whole album. You know, I think that song does such a great job of describing suffering and feeling like nobody really understands you. He sings, "You call, I'll be there. What's more, I'm scared of the phone, don't ring it." You know, that just feels like a depiction of so badly wanting to be there, living your fullest life, but also recognizing that you have this innate fear within you. And right after that, we get the instantly iconic line, "Everyone will think it was cool. She had Billie Eilish style." And, you know, at the risk of being way off here, my interpretation of this is that it's them hinting about how we glamorize the stereotype of the tortured artist. That for creative people that express themselves, it's somehow cool to be sad or cool to be emotional. And, you know, I feel like this is them saying that in reality, it's not that cool, and that actually it sucks to be sad and it sucks just as much to be anxious. One more line I want to talk about in this song. He describes being on an exploding starship and everybody and their friends get in the escape pods and there's no room left on there for him. And he's just left out in space floating around with the wreckage. And to me, that's a portrait of how lonely and isolated it could feel for somebody who is struggling with something like anxiety or depression. And one more thing I want to bring up is along with the title track of this album, the Concorde is brought up quite a lot. It's even on the album's cover. We see that Concorde plane wrapped up in plastic. You know, I couldn't help but wonder, what's the significance of bringing up a decommissioned aircraft and basing your album around that? And, you know, to me, I feel like it's kind of Isaac's metaphor for almost how he is perceived by the public or his audience, is that, you know, the Concorde was this very advanced, exciting new technology that was changing transportation and could potentially change the way we live our lives. You know, you could get across the world so much faster, and it was decommissioned after a fatal crash. And I wonder if Isaac's seeing himself as this really exciting and bold new sound in the music world, and, you know, wondering if all that's going to happen to him is he's going to crash and burn and everybody's going to essentially decommission him and that'll be the end of him. But, you know, that's just my take on it. Maybe it means something completely different, but I think it's a pretty cool metaphor regardless. Now, as much as I did enjoy this album, I gotta say, there's still some stuff I didn't really love about it. The neoclassical / Baroque pop, whatever you want to call it, direction felt kind of unfulfilled to me. And those moments, I also felt like they are sometimes kind of distracting from the album's soulful energy that I much more prefer. I'm looking at you, Chaos Space Marine. You know, I don't dislike the song. I think it has kind of a cool Broadway musical show tune vibe to it. I think it does a good job of introducing Isaac as the protagonist in this story, or this kind of tragic hero. But I still didn't really care for the campiness of the song, and it just seems less memorable than pretty much any other song on the album. Also, I felt like parts of this album could feel pretty predictable. You know, even though I do like this album better than their last one of the things that their last album has over this one is that it was a much more thrilling ride with some crazy left turns, and it would have been nice to be caught off guard like that again. The track Snow Globes, even though I said that I do like and appreciate how the drumming matches, you know, the helplessness of the vocals at times, it's a 9-minute song, and after 30 seconds, I pretty much knew where it was going. On its own, it definitely is a beautiful track, but you know, the way it's placed on the album makes it feel a bit redundant to me. I think the song before it, The Place Where He Inserted the Blade, does a much better job of building up to that grand finale, and if Snow Globes isn't gonna be that finale, then it just seems kind of unnecessary to me. You know, especially after my fourth and so on listen of the album, I just felt like it didn't really add a whole lot. But to segue out of this nitpicky nonsense, Basketball Shoes, that is how you end an album. Oof, that awesome, heavy indie rock energy just makes you wanna. It's awesome, and this album is beautiful and awesome as well. It really doesn't feel as long as it is. It's a very tight package. You know, I think this is a totally effortless listen that is really nice. I give it an 8.7 out of 10. And there you have it. Those are my thoughts, feelings, and opinions on Ants From Up There by Black Country New Road. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did enjoy this video, why not give me a like and give me a subscribe, and you'll be notified when I make another video, and maybe you'll like that video too, and that would be cool. I would like that, so, you know, consider it. Catch you next time.